with pickleball? Just the first time you played it and you learned about it and kind of.
So, okay, I'd heard about pickleball like everybody. It was kind of growing in the U.S., but it was mostly old people playing, retired people. Living in Austin, I didn't really feel like that was my life yet. So I was a late adopter. Some people were playing in Austin. Some people I play with now have been playing for 10 years in Austin. Some OG pickleball people. So for me, it was probably I think during COVID. I saw people playing, and then really what made me decide I wanted to try it, I saw some firefighters out in front of their station with their shirts off. I was driving to go play golf off Montopolis. There's a fire station over there, and they're playing out in their driveway. And I said, okay, I'm going to try it. So I got my college-age daughter, and we went over to Pan Am Park, which is kind of the coolest spot for just to go over and meet people and play pickleball. But when you drive up there, the first time we went, people are good players. We had never played before, so they're smashing the ball back and forth. And we didn't get out of the car. We just sat there and watched for 30 minutes. We're like too nervous, embarrassed to actually, because you stack your paddles there and you play with whoever is on the court. Like whoever wins stays. And so that was way too much. So we waited until I think it was my older daughter's birthday in February. We drove out to Dreamland, which had opened. That was really the first place I think a lot of people played, which is down in Dripping. It's recently closed, which is sad. But the owner of that, Steve Kuhn, is kind of he started Major League Pickleball. He started Duper, the rating system for pickleball, and started Pickle Mall, where they were putting pickleball courts in malls and spaces that weren't being rented. So they have a lot of courts down there. So we drove out there. We rented a court, and we were by ourselves. We were far enough away from anyone who might see us. So that's where we first played. And it was fun. I mean, it was just our family, and you can start playing immediately, which is really the attraction to pickleball, is anyone can pick up a paddle, pretty much anyone, and start playing and have a fun time. So that's the first time we played. Then we started playing around, looking for courts around downtown, because that's where we were living. We would play at Austin High School, and there were no nets. It was the tennis, what do you call it, where you hit off the wall when you're practicing tennis. They had it lined for pickleball also. So we'd go over there, and people would have temporary nets. People would bring, and you set up a net and play. So we started doing that, and I didn't think about it until just now that we're talking about it. The third time we went, we didn't have a net. We would just play with other people who had nets. And some women who were playing said, "Oh, you don't have a net?" I said, "No, I'm not sure what to get." They said, "We have one for you. You can have our old one." So they gave us a net, and I thought, how many sports, how many parks, basically a high school, like randomly would someone give you their pickleball net to use? Very welcoming group of people. So we started playing down there, and then that started getting very crowded. As people started to adopt pickleball in Austin, so we would have to wake up earlier and earlier to go over there to see if we could get a court on the weekend when my daughter was home from college. And it's the moment you're turning the corner and you're looking to see, are we going to be able to play this morning, or are we going to eat breakfast, because there are tons of people out there. And then the vibe over there suddenly became, if you're on the court, people are lining up. When are you leaving? How long are you playing? And my youngest daughter was I guess 22, 21, said, I don't even think I want to play this anymore. It's too stressful now. We got to get up so early, we don't know, and people are aggressive on the court. It's not fun anymore. I said, I was a retired real estate development guy, and I thought, when you are playing pickleball and you're looking for courts to play that aren't packed, every flat surface you see, you think, I could put pickleball courts there. We were in Italy on vacation, and we're in St. Peter's, Basilica, and I'm looking in there thinking, gosh, there could be 30 pickleball courts in here. It's flat, it's perfect. And that's when you realize you're kind of becoming obsessed with finding a spot to put some pickleball courts. So I thought, okay, downtown, what are we going to do? Because obviously closer is better. And then I did remember those firefighters on their street, it was like a curved ramp leading up to the fire station. So I thought, well, we could play on the rooftop of our garage of our apartment building. So it's North Shore. It's 2 blocks from where Urban is right now. And we had room on the, I got a measure thing, tape out there, and we got another guy in the building and I got some duct tape. He got a temporary net, and we, got the lines down, just duct tape. And we have a group chat in the building, and we put it out, hey, we have a pickleball court in the building. People started coming down. And so that one night, I turned to him and I said, this is like 95% great. The surface isn't perfect. I said, but we could probably make this work on a rooftop parking garage. So the next day, we think we're patting ourselves on the back. This is going to be great. The building messages my friend and said, we saw you on the cameras. They ripped up the tape. They took the net. And they said, if you guys ever do that again, we're going to evict you from this building. And we're like, oh, we went down, met with the manager and said, let us figure out how to do that. They said, absolutely not. So I called the owner of the building in California. It's a big public REIT, real estate REIT that owns it. And I said, this would be a great amenity. I'm a retired real estate development guy. Let me figure out how to put some courts. No one parks up there. It's a great amenity for the building. Not many buildings downtown have a rooftop garage where they could put a pickleball court. It would differentiate this building. Pickleball is huge. And they said, it will never happen. There's never been a rooftop pickleball court anywhere in the world. It's never going to happen in Austin. Forget it. And if you do it again, the building's going to evict you. Don't do that again. So I said, well, I'm going to do it somewhere. I'm going to figure it out. They said, okay, it's not here. So that was kind of a challenge. So it was both a, wanting to find a place we could play as a family with my daughter and friends, and then also kind of a spite project because the building said it was impossible and they were going to evict us. And so both those are both motivators for me, at least, I think for most people. So I said, I'm going to find a spot. So I got on Google Maps and and my friend was doing it with me. We started looking around for rooftops, any spots in downtown, but rooftops made the most sense because no one in Texas is going to park on the roof. That's the last place you're going to park. And we had to find a certain depth of, space to lay out a pickleball courts, and ones that are flat. A lot of them are built, designs are terrible when they're like all angled. Like, we hate those. And then my friend kind of gave up after a while. We couldn't find it. I would try to reach out to owners of these garages, and we weren't making any progress. So my friend kind of dropped out. But the state garage, a couple blocks away, was also the spot where the drive-in movies were showing. So I was attracted to that location because it was very close to where we lived. And they were allowing a use up there that was different from parking. They were allowing the drive-in movies during COVID. So I always thought, well, if they allow that, then maybe they would allow pickleball. So I started trying to talk to the Texas Facility Commission, and it was hard. I mean, I asked many, many times, and the answer was always, well, what is pickleball? And has that ever been done anywhere? And I couldn't find any example. I didn't know at the time. I have since met the guy who he converted some kind of paddle tennis thing in Los Angeles area to a pickleball court, a rooftop pickleball court in, I think, 2011. They had one court. I couldn't find that on the internet at the time, but someone introduced us. Marshall Pure is his name. He was the first one, but I didn't know it. So I had no example of it. And they're like, oh, the balls are going to fly off and all these problems. And I said, well, I can fix that, or we can do this, or we can. So I guess I stayed on. It was very persistent. And then Laz, the parking manager of the building, they got involved, and they eventually allowed us to put 2 courts up on that rooftop. And the backstory was, all my other friends, except the one I was looking with, I said, hey, I think I'm going to try to put these courts up on the rooftop, and everyone thought it was a terrible idea. I mean, not only one guy would even go up there, and he was someone I didn't know that well, who had played pickleball with a few times, who's kind of a social connector in Austin. And he lives across from the rooftop. I said, just come up there with me. So he came up, and we went out of the elevator and looked at where I was going to put the 2 courts, and he looks at me and says, I don't think this is going to work. I said, I don't think this is a great idea. This isn't going to be good. And I said, well, it'll be nice. And all I was really focused on was it was flat and big enough for the pickleball courts and close in downtown. I mean, I saw the buildings, but I didn't really, like one time in my life, I didn't really think about, oh, this is a cool view, or I just wanted a spot to put some courts. And I thought it would be our family and friends of friends, maybe, because everyone told me no one's going to play up there. And my wife, so the garage, the state told me, you can't touch anything up there. Everything's got to be temporary, because if this doesn't work out, then you need to be able to leave, and we have no sign that you were there. So there's a product that was kind of new called Pickle Roll. It's a system where these mats, the pickleball court is a plastic mat that rolls out. They're very heavy, and the lead time to get these were like 6 months. So I had ordered the 2 of them. They came from, the kind I got were Pickleball United, different companies, same idea. They came from India. So I ordered them before I had gotten permission to put them up there. And my wife's like, what are you doing? I was kind of obsessed that I was going to find a spot somewhere. And they come in big crates, and they weigh 1,500 pounds each. And, I would need a forklift or something to move them. And they were being shipped, and I already paid for them. And they were going to be delivered. And so that was really the only time it was a scary moment, when I thought, okay, these are going to arrive, and my wife's going to kill me because I don't have a place to put them. But they came, and so we rolled them out. And as soon as we rolled them out, people started coming down. And the first game we played, I turned to my wife and I said, maybe this should just be, we won't let anyone else play except our friends and their friends. And she's like, but you hate to arrange games with people. I hate to text and arrange, who's going to play at what time. And she's like, you need more people here. So people started coming down, I put up the temporary fence because there were a lot of homeless guys up on the rooftop of the garage. And so I fenced it in with this temporary fencing. And people were coming, some Google employees came down, all these people who were looking at the courts as we unrolled them were asking, well, how do we play here?
From like buildings.
From buildings that could see it from their office. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure. Let me get your number. I wrote them down. And so my wife said, well, you hate playing. You need these people to play with. So I said, okay, I'll do a membership thing. And I opened a bank account. And I remember I went into the Chase Bank. And because he says he hears about the bank guy at Chase says, I hear about your pickleball courts all the time. It's blown up. It's a famous spot. And people always tell him, and he's like, I know that guy. He didn't do that to have a business. And they're like, yeah, that's what he says. And he's like, no, it's true. He opened a bank account. He said, I'm the one who opened it. And I was just to keep it separate so I could show my wife that I was going to try to pay back, get the cost of the courts. And so I had no intention of it actually being, a place except the payback for the courts. That was it. And so he tells everyone it's 100% true. So people started coming down, and so I started a membership, and we had 50 members for 2 courts. I thought that would be enough, and we needed more to have people to play with all the time. So that's how it started. I reserved the name because I wanted an LLC for the landlord to have the lease and all that. So I reserved the name in Texas, and everyone's like, well, Urban Pickleball is a famous name. Why, you could franchise that. I said, well, there is now there's an Urban Pickleball in San Diego, in Seattle, Tokyo, in Malaysia, there's Urban Pickleball. And most of those people call me, and there was a guy in Phoenix was going to do it, call Urban Pickleball, and they will call and say, can we use that name? This is a cool idea, a cool thing. I said, of course. And people are like, why don't you franchise? I said, it's just fun for me that people want to use the name. I never thought I would trademark the name in the U.S. or in the world. I mean, those thoughts, everyone was telling me no one would play up there, let alone, why would I spend an extra 25, or I don't know how much it costs to reserve the name. But now it's kind of a name. There's a guy in San Francisco that came, Jim Jenkins. He came and he's copying it almost exactly. I'm helping him with everything. He's going to call it, he said, what name were you going to use if you didn't do urban? Because the name is a hard thing. And I said, something neighborhood, because this is like our neighborhood pickleball court. And he said, I'm going to use that name. So I think he's going to call it neighborhood pickleball. And he's on top of a garage in Berkeley, California. And I told him, there's no way you're going to get that approved. And he did. So he talks about being inspired after he came to Austin and seeing this. The guys from Tokyo came, and I think they're a social club, and they asked if they could use the Urban Pickleball Tokyo. I said, of course. So it's flattering for me, but people wonder why I didn't get the name reserved. I'm like, I was just worried about if people will play up there at all. So that's how it started. And then we added 2 courts, and then the state, the representatives from the TFC came by, and I said, I think maybe I need to add some courts. Can I expand? And they start laughing. And I'm like, why are y'all laughing? And they said, everyone thought this would be a hit except you. And I said, yeah, because everyone told me it wouldn't be. So they've been, obviously without the state allowing us and LAS parking, we would never, it would never happen. In so many places in the world, I mean, I don't know anywhere else except maybe Texas that people would have that community spirit to let us do it. I mean, it's turned into a very cool thing, but it's risky. It's not normal for states to allow things like that. So, I mean, how cool is it that they let us? So we try to do everything we can to make sure that everyone's happy, and it's a fun place, and it that's why I say I'm like the caretaker of that spot. We're there because they let us be there, and we have no, it's their spot, and we're just trying to make it a cool place to play and a fun place to be, and we'll just do that as long as we can.
So you have 4 courts?
We have 6. Then we added 2 more. We added 2 more, and then after they could see that everything was working, the manager of the garage and the state, they said we could make it more like real courts and not use the mats that we had originally started with, which were a real maintenance issue and not a great surface to play on. So they let us do that. And I think we pioneered the best way to do that. So other people are copying that now. A guy from San Antonio, Jason Lerner, someone put me in touch with him and said that he would be the best one because he knows how to. He's a genius with concrete. So he's the one that made the courts really good enough to where professional players would go out on the court and have fun or drill there or play there. Before that, it would be tough, just because it's a 35-year-old parking garage surface. So, making it and the lighting and all that was, we had to figure out along the way. Part of it was the fencing and the ivy. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's so beautiful," and the ivy. I was at a construction site in a different city, and I saw that there was ivy covering the windscreen. And I thought, well, that's really much more attractive than windscreen. I'll do that. But the only source we could find was on Amazon, and the only affordable way to do it, they come in 1-foot sections. So my wife and I are mostly my wife, are putting together all the section of the ivy. And we basically did it all ourselves. when I think back on it, it was a lot of work, but now we've kind of figured it out.
So when did it first open?
October, 2.5 years ago.
So October 24?
Is that 24 or 23? Maybe 23. I'm bad with years. Yeah, 2.5 years ago, October.
Okay, so you have 6 courts, and then you have the futsal court.
Yeah, so the futsal is not ours.
Right.
They were in
That
the
doesn't happen without you.
Yeah, so they were in the Indeed building, and they looked down and they saw the pickleball courts, and they figured out who owns the garage, and they contacted the garage and said, "Can we do futsal?" And they said, "Talk to Jay. If he will do it, you do it with him, then we'll do it," because they were happy with, I guess, the way we were dealing with things. So they came over and they wanted to do futsal. It had been done in New York, I think, in Chicago. I'm not a soccer. I played soccer in high school, but I'm not a soccer player. I'm too old to actually play it now. And I said I didn't really want to be involved financially because they were having to buy something from Europe and import it. But I got the sense that the state wanted there to be they wanted that soccer up there. So I told them I would help them, and we would work together to get it done, but I wasn't going to be involved, financially. So they allowed them to put the futsal up there.
So
And we do a lot of events together. It's been great.
Right, but going back to the pickleball, so you built the courts, and I know now that you have like big commercials and things that are shot up there. You told me the Whole Foods owner store. So
Yeah.
kind of sharing some of the stories about the court, because it's allowed. It's become like a really focal point of the pickleball community, and it's featuring, like I said, in commercials. So
Yeah, so the first, we laid the courts out, and they roll out in an hour. So all of a sudden, there are pickleball courts on this rooftop that I've estimated 60,000 people can see from downtown, based on looking at all the buildings and all the windows and all that. How many people work in these buildings? And so the courts are there. People start coming down, and their professional league of teams, one of which is the Ranchers. They're the Austin-based team. They're the ones who hosted the event that you were at. So they called and asked if my wife and I would be in a photo shoot for some merchandise they were going to launch. And I said, well, I'm old. I don't know you really want to. She's like, yeah, we need an older demographic. So I said, sure, we'll do it. We play pickleball. So a few days before the shoot, they said, we were going to do it at this other place. Could we do it up at your courts that you have? I said, oh, I get it now. This was the idea from the beginning. I didn't realize really that they wanted to shoot a video of their new launch of their merchandise at our courts. So we did that, and then that's when Jack Monroe, who is he's a professional player. He's also a UT student. He's the #1 college player. He's the #1 player on the APP tour, which is a professional tour of pickleball. He comes in the gates, and he started the Longhorn Pickleball group at UT. And we now host them for all their social, and it's a competitive team, and they've been ranked now the top, and they didn't win this last tournament, but 2 years before they're #1 in the country for pickleball. So Jack walks in, and I'm like, oh, here's a good-looking guy. He's a model. And then he starts playing pickleball, and I'm like, no, he's actually a very good pickleball player. I didn't know he was a famous pickleball player. So when we opened the courts, I didn't know anything about pickleball. I didn't know how the teams work. I didn't know who any of the people were. The Ranchers do a photo shoot. Then they invited us up to a Major League Pickleball tournament in Dallas, and everyone has heard about the pickleball courts that we started in Austin, and I don't know who any of the people are. I don't know if they're team owners or famous players, or they own the paddle companies, but everyone is very interested in talking and meeting me. And I was telling my friends that that in business, if you walk in a room and you don't know who everyone is, you're in trouble. because you're going to mess up. And I didn't know any of the people. So it's, I learned over time how that worked. But at the same time, like 2 weeks in, a guy comes up to a rooftop and he starts asking a lot of questions, and he said he had car trouble. I was helping him with his car, and then we're talking about the pickleball courts, and he said, he was looking around, and right before he left, he says, okay, I'm a reporter for Getty Images, and I want to do a story on these courts, a photojournalist oriented story, but I'm going to get it approved by my editor. This is a really cool thing. So he says, I'll call you if it gets approved, and I'll come back and do a story. So he came back a few weeks later, Brandon Bell.
I've seen the photos on Getty.
So he took photos of the two courts with people playing, and it became stock photography for pickleball around the world because people subscribe to Getty, as you know, and they can use the photos if they're a subscriber. So any article about pickleball for 6 months, the first 6 months we were open, generally, because Brandon said the stock photography for pickleball is terrible. He said, I'm going to take photos here, and this is going to become the photos, stock photography for pickleball from now on. And he was right. I would get a notice that the Wall Street Journal or Bloomberg or the Miami, whatever, Seattle, all the papers around the world were using the photos he took. And in the bottom it would say, people playing at Urban Pickleball Austin. Matthew Perry, the actor, dies playing after 3 hours of pickleball, and there's an image of pickleball. So these were not necessarily good articles. Some were, some weren't. But it would generally have that photo and then mention Urban Pickleball. So the images started going around, and my kids are like, every few weeks something really cool like that would happen, where Getty comes, the ranchers come and film their photo shoot, or a celebrity will come, or a pro player will come, and a music group, the Lumineers came, and every time we're amazed that they're coming up here to see or play pickleball, and my kid said, it's kind of now, it's like a normal thing that celebrities are coming up, and this place is getting all this attention, and still, like, maybe recently now I'm like used to it, but for the first 2 years, every couple weeks you're amazed when some famous person or player or something wants to do something up there. And then a group of Austin players started playing up there who are like the pickleball royalty of Austin, the OG players, and they like it because it's a cool place. It's, the setting, the location in Centralized is great. The views are incredible for pickleball. There's not any other place like it. And then they like that, it's a community of people wanting to play, and it's not someone trying to, figure out how to monetize and make money. And I'm just having fun. And I think that translates. And people say, oh, Jay, he did this or that. I just put the courts there, and all these people create the community. But I let them do what they want. We don't have many rules. If they want to play leagues, they can form leagues. I'm just, whatever's fun, I want to do. And so that's worked as far as attracting we have all levels of people that play, but we're kind of known for high-level players. We have beginners as well. But it's just grown into, having events like the one you were at, and having social media, people from all over the world come and want to see it, because Jack Monroe basically has made it famous. He's the pro college UT player. He came and asked if the UT team could use the courts for practice, and I said, of course. He's like, well, no one else in town will let us use the courts for free. And I said, well, I went to UT. I don't think anyone else in town who owns a pickleball place went to UT. I said, but I would love to host you guys. That would be fun. And so he started playing there, and he's a big social media content person. And then he would bring in, people want to film with him. And I mean, I was not a social media person. My kids all think it's hilarious that now People think our social media is so great. I'm basically reposting other people that come and film things. But people around the world see his content, and I give him credit. I give Tan Pham, who's the one guy who came up to the rooftop who said it wasn't going to work up there. He early on came and said, hey, he was one of the early people playing with me up there, and he said, we need some more people here to play with. Let me just put out in my social networks on Instagram or whatever chat groups he's in, and I'll get some good people up here to be members. And I said, okay, what are you going to do? He's like, just let me handle it, is what he said. So he puts out in his chat that there's a speakeasy private pickleball spot downtown Austin. If you're interested, DM Tan. And it worked, because people started DMing Tan. How do I play at this spot? I mean, people in Austin love a speakeasy, atmosphere. We didn't ever have a sign or a website because it was not. I never ever think that we would need a sign. I mean, if people were playing there, it was because they knew us and they would know how to get up there. Why would we want to have a sign? So people really liked the fact that there was not. It was kind of a hidden gem spot. People always like to discover that. So Tan brought a bunch of people early on to come play, and they wanted to sign up and be a member. So we started a membership thing, and then one of the members started a booking court reservation system, because I was just, if someone wanted a court, they'd have to email me, and then I would put on a Google sheet to keep track, and that was not going to last very long. So one of our members said, I'm going to start this court reservation. I said, you better hurry, because I tried to sign up for the biggest court reservation system, and it was way too complicated for what we needed. And I was like, this is crazy. Why? I'm not going to use that. So he designed one, and now I'm an advisor. I did invest in that company as well. And we were the first ones to use it anywhere, and now it's in, I think, 47 clubs. So that's kind of a fun thing that's happened starting at Urban Pickleball. Was Alex Zub started Open Court is the name of it. And it's very social, so it allows us to book open games, and then people can join the games. And people think Urban, the community is super, it's a very social, close-knit group. I kind of make sure that people aren't being mean to each other, which happens a lot of places. People think that because we have a big area in between the courts, that's the magic of Urban, is that most people put the area next to a court for that court, and then there's another court, and then an area for that court, so people aren't mingling. And they're like, oh, you're a genius for doing it like that. I said, no. I said, I put turf in between the courts. I hadn't seen that, but I thought, okay, that'll be nicer thing to have. And it's 12 feet wide, and people are like, oh, it's such a big, nice space. We can hang out there, and that's why Urban Pickleball is such a good spot to play. I said, it's not genius on my part. I went to Home Depot. It's 12 feet wide because at Home Depot, they sell it 12-foot wide sections, and I just rolled it out. I didn't want to think about cutting it, so that's how that started. People want to, project genius, and I did this on purpose, and that's not really how that happened. But it is a very social place, and we have a lot of, local Austin celebrity type people who love to play there, and that attracts other people. And
give me just one high profile celebrity.
I guess I was just out at John Mackey, the founder of Whole Foods. I consider an Austin business legend. He's been vegetarian for 25 years. He's an icon. He loves pickleball. He's our oldest member. He's 72 or 3. He just invited me out. He has a sport weekend at his ranch, and he invited me this year. I play with him quite a bit now, but he comes out, and he likes their higher level players he can play with. He comes in the mornings. We have a lot of people like that. I tend not to talk about who's coming out. It's because people feel anonymous, but we're not anonymous. People can see who's playing on the court. I mean, my daughter lives at 6G building, and she easily knows who I am. on the court. You can see it from when you're playing. It feels, you've been down there. It feels like you're anonymous. It's like your little spot, but everyone can see you. People at Google headquarters in Austin is 1 block away. The Meta building 1 block away. We have members at those places. I mean, they know every time I'm down there squeegeeing the courts. It's just my wife and I that run the place. We don't have any employees or anything, so we're always out there. Daphne's fixing the ivy sections, and I tell people, they're like, oh, you guys are working so hard. I'm like, we're used to having a house, and we live in an apartment now, and this is like us gardening. So I say Daphne's gardening when she's, doing the plastic ivy, or if I'm blowing off the leaves off the court with a blower, they can see me and they're messaging me, oh, you're working hard. I'm like, I would have been doing this at my house in the backyard, So, but you realize everyone could see. And I think we entertain most of downtown because people are looking out their windows. I hope we're not distracting people from working, but someone did tell me that they are sure that the binocular sales in Austin in this zip code has increased. Jonathan Van Ness, JVN, who's on the Queer Eye show, was living in Austin, so he and his husband would come every day when they were in town. They moved to New York, they came back, and the people would want to try to find out when JVN was coming to play because he's an icon. So it's always someone interesting coming in the door. The proper hotel is a block away, and some of those guests may see the courts, and so the general manager may reach out, or they will figure out a member to ask to come play. We had an Elon Musk cousin a few weeks ago. The guy that owns the proper hotel, Hayes Barnard, came out and played. He was like, hey, how do I play here? I didn't know about this place. So it's just a cool place to play, and then people, they're doing a lot of dating is going on. We hosted a wedding event on last Sunday for a couple. They didn't meet at Urban, but they came early on as a couple. The girl lived at 5th and West building, and the guy lived at 360, which is right next to the pickleball courts. And they started playing together. So now people argue about what member number they were, like it's a exalted position. So I looked it up for him. He's member number 9, and she's member number 17. Most of our 50 original members are still members. Even if they don't play pickleball, they still want to be a part. And so they were playing together, and I advised them. It was a little contentious. I said, I think for your relationship, you guys shouldn't play together or against each other. So I say they got married. That was 2.5 years ago. They just got married this last weekend, and they had a wedding brunch on Sunday. And I guess it goes to prove that I said they didn't meet there, but they tempered their relationship like steel. They would go through moments where they wouldn't talk to each other because one was better than the other. So we've had some babies that have been born from people that have met there.
How many total members do you have now?
We have about 200. Okay. So we keep it. It's just a number that we made up that was lower, I think, than any other pickleball place anywhere, because the whole idea was we want to be able to play when we want to play and not have to book it far in advance and have it be a struggle. So we do like 35 members per court, and I think someone told me when we first opened that a normal pickleball club, like the indoor ones that you'll see, the big franchise ones, they probably want 100 to 150 members per court. And a luxury country club would have 50 members per court. And then the guy turned to me and said, well, how many are you going to have? And I said, well, 25. I hadn't really thought about it because I didn't know anything about the business of pickleball. It was just half of whatever the number he gave me because I thought that would be fun. And then we needed more than that just to have enough people to play with. So we have about 200. It's a good group, and a lot of people come and, like I say, meet other people. A lot of them doing business together. And I always joke that 5% of any business transactions come to Urban Pickleball. I haven't gotten a payout yet, but I know that there have been very large business deals made on those courts. But no one has paid me the 5%. But it's fun. a very prominent AI CEO that everyone would know's brother lives in town. He was out playing with some other entrepreneurs, some tech entrepreneurs, VC guys who've sold companies. They asked me to join their game, and we're playing. They're talking about all these Y Combinator companies they're investing in and all this. I said, do I need to sign an NDA to play in this game with you guys? And they're like, no, you don't know anything about this world. We're safe with you. And they were right. But a lot of tech guys, I mean, they all play pickleball. Pickleball in Austin is a very social thing. So it's the new golf. Actually, there was an article in, I think it was Wall Street Journal, pickleball is the new golf, taking over the social aspect of meeting and relationships for business. And I know it because the picture in the article was Urban Pickleball Club, was one of the times they used it. There was another article in Scientific American, National Geographic, about the science of pickleball and the health impacts for pickleball. They say it's the healthiest sport, which is also why John Mackey includes it. He has a new concept called Love Life, and he's going to open one in Austin. There's one in LA where it's whole body health, like a lifetime on steroids, focused on health, healthy lifestyle, healthy living, doctors, food, everything in one place. But he always includes pickleball. For the same reason the National Geographic said that pickleball is the best sport because of the physical. Racket sports are great for your physical body, but also the social part of pickleball, I think is really the biggest impact. Because as opposed to tennis, the court for pickleball is smaller. So when you really think about it, I sit out there and I think all the time, what is it about pickleball that people love? The court's small, so I can talk to you across the net very easily. At tennis, you can't really talk to the person you're playing with. Another thing is it's fast paced, and like we'll have open play for members, and you can play a game in 10 or 15 minutes and meet people and then go to a different game. It's not like tennis where there's an hour, you have to play a set. It's easy to learn. So, and it's fun to play even with people who are not your level. Unlike tennis is a struggle if you're not equally matched. But pickleball, I mean, is fun. I can play with people much better than me or much worse than me and still have fun playing. And then, the speed of the game, the fastness of the game. The other thing that I've picked up, I've heard from other people, is that the number of times you hit the ball in pickleball versus tennis, I don't remember the number. It's like 5 or 7 times more. Because the points are faster, the court's smaller, so you can pick up the ball and start a new point faster. The rallies last longer. I think the average rally in pickleball, again, I'm not 100% on the number, but it's like 7 back and forth before the point's over. In tennis, the average for an amateur is like 2 or 3. So it's more engaging. You get to hit it more. Yeah, it's more action. People love it, and I think that's why. And the social aspect is what keeps people coming back. I mean, people will come down to our open plays and just hang out and talk, and it's a more casual sport. They're not, there's not a lot of tradition of dress and things that make other sports more intimidating. Like John Mackey comes in, his shirt's off, he's 72, and he broke his neck a few months ago hiking, and he'll go on these crazy hundreds of miles hikes. And we all were thinking, he's older, he broke his neck, he's done playing pickleball. He came back and he's playing now. He started playing a few months ago again, and he's better than he's ever been. So pickleball, I think, allows all ages to do it, and so he and I can compete against 20-year-olds. And there's not an age barrier, physical fitness barrier. I mean, he's more physically fit than I am, but so for all those reasons, I think pickleball in Austin is mostly in downtown. Our membership base is mostly 25 to 35 years old. There are a handful of 50s like me, and then John is the oldest, but everybody mixes and plays with each other.
So you mentioned the business of pickleball. This is kind of my final question. Is Talk to me about, you've kind of, you believed in it, others didn't. Now the concept's been proven, you kind of got your revenge on your
The building, yes.
building that you live in. But now talk to me about like the growth of it. You mentioned the other cities that are having it, but before we got on camera, you talked about you're getting involved with others, not necessarily franchising it, but growing, doing other things. So kind of talk to me about how you've gone from people not relating to this work that's so popular, and now you're actually involved with other people and advising. So talk about that.
Yeah, so through Urban, people want to come and see what this place is all about, because they hear that it's so popular and that there's this huge long wait list and that it's the coolest place to play. And so I've met a lot of people, and they want to start a pickleball business. I watched some podcasts. Brian Lim is one of my favorite podcast guys. He did one about the business of pickleball, and I didn't know who any of these people were, so I'm like, I got to start watching these things and learn about who the people are. If I meet them, I'll know who they are. And he did one about pickleball business, and the guy, I don't remember his name, he is one of the top guys in the pickleball world. He started the Hub. It's a large pickleball franchise in Southern California and other places. And it stuck out to me because he said, for all you people out there who think you want to start a pickleball club because you like to play pickleball, he said, forget it. You'll never have fun again if you start a pickleball club, because you'll be worrying about your pro shop revenue and the business that you're in, and you won't have fun ever again playing pickleball. And I sat there thinking, this was like maybe a year in, and I just said, totally untrue for me. I play every day. I have the best time playing. And so everyone approaches it differently. I know he's running a huge franchise where he has, lots of courts and lots of overhead and employees and all that. But people come and ask me, and they want to do podcasts with me, and I'm like, I don't know anything. They're like, yes, you do. You've got the coolest spot probably there is. And, so they said, we want you because you don't know anything, and we just want to hear your story. So I've been telling it, and then other people come, and they think there's some magic, and they want me to be part of their venture, whether it's for advice on how to run it or how to physically do it on a rooftop. There's a guy I was telling you in California, Jim Jenkins, who's opening one in Berkeley, California. It's going to be just like ours. So I'm excited about. I want to go to the opening when he does that. But people ask, and they either want advice, or they need to raise some money, or they need to sign a lease on a project. And it helps if they have someone with some experience. And because of the social media presence we have, and the notoriety on all these publications because of Getty Images and all the stuff building up, people ask me to be a part. And like my wife says, I rarely say no. So I'm helping a couple in Montana who are working on a project out there. There's a paddle club I was telling you about here in Austin that I'm part of. There's another rooftop thing we might be doing in Austin with a group of guys. I don't really want to do any more work, but I'm happy to, I love people. Being around people energizes me. So, people are like, you're always, having fun. I'm like, I'm having the time of my life. A retired guy, starting something and being able to play pickleball every day and meet all these people. And these people now invite me to do things around Austin. It's the best, thing in the world that could have happened to my life at this time of my life. So I'm always happy to share anything I can or help young people, especially. UT students always coming and asking, and I'm helping them make connections in the business world, and they want to meet our members, and our members want to play with them, and having the UT team there has been a really great part of our whole place, and just the flow of people coming through. So people around the country, and they ask me, I will help them. I will, do whatever I can. Let them use the name if they ask permission. The guy who owns the Seattle Urban Pickleball Club came to our Urban with an event with Founders League, which is it's a very cool entrepreneur-focused, founder-focused pickleball league in town. It's run by Michael Salm and Drew Danzisen at Millbrook, and they host some events at Urban because we have 6 courts. They only have 2. So the Seattle owner of that Urban Pickleball Club came to Urban, and he comes up to me and he says, you know, I own Urban Pickleball Seattle. He's like, you know, I copied you 100% on that. I didn't ask. I said, no, it's totally fine. You know, it's flattering to me if someone wants to use the name for whatever reason. You know, there's no gatekeeping anything. Like I say, the state of Texas, Laz Parking, allowed us to put this up there. It's turned into this thing. I feel like an ambassador. Some of the guys in our club wanted me to run for mayor of Austin. I'm like, guys, you are pushing this way too far. You know, that is not going to happen. But what they are, I think, what they're reacting to is I'm always promoting our members with each other to make connections, and they appreciate that, especially in a world where, you know, people were locked down for so many years, and you know, a pickleball community in a place downtown where mostly downtown people are members. We can go there. That's like our backyard. You know, it's not a restaurant or a bar. It's a place we can just go hang out and have fun and play or be competitive or just hang out. It's like the coolest backyard spot, except better than a backyard because there are a lot of people that can come and hang out, and we don't have to invite them or kick them out when we're ready for them to go. Because I always said that the biggest luxury would be to have your own pickleball court in your backyard. So this is basically a backyard pickleball courts, except better, because there's a group of members that come and go, and we don't have to invite or not, and they bring guests, and the guests are always super interesting from all around the world. So the flow of people is truly the best. So if you ask people, they will say the community aspect is fantastic. But the whole draw is the location and the views. That's where it all starts. And the fact that they let us do it in downtown Austin, I mean, I don't know if it can work. That community can work anywhere, but being in this location makes it like the best place in the world. I mean, so I feel lucky every day. I feel like it's now kind of a responsibility because I feel like a lot of people are relying on the place as their place for community, and to make it better and to, you know, make sure that there are cool events happening. You know, a lot of charity events we'll do. So it's fun. I mean, we don't have any employees. It's just me and my wife. We have a Bluetooth padlock on the gate. Some people are copying that as a business model because a lot of pickleball is growing in the U.S., but a lot of clubs have come up, and a lot of them don't do that well. They have a lot of overhead. They have a lot of employees to deal with. So the model of a kind of a member-based place with low overhead. I mean, we're on the rooftop of a parking garage, so you know we don't have air conditioning and expensive. We do have rent. Rent is a big expense. We do pay a lot of rent, but the rest of it is, you know, members take care of the place because they're going to be there the next day. So that model, I mean, we kind of just fell into that. It wasn't a design, but it works great. And now there are companies doing autonomous pickleball, so you can go in and out without checking in with a person and have access codes. And so, you know, maybe there's something to that model. I mean, it certainly works for us, and I think it could work other places. But pickleball's still growing, and it's more and more popular, and people email me every day and want to join. You know, people always tell me, if you have such a long wait list, why don't you raise your dues? Our dues are the lowest of any pickleball. It's $100 a month. It's lower than any other place in Austin. And again, at the time, I just thought, what would I be willing to pay to play pickleball? And I mean, I was paying $100 in this golf simulator, my favorite golf simulator place. So I'm like, I think $100. But it's 2.5 years later, and everyone's like, well, why don't you raise the dues? You could raise it. You could. I said, that's not. The more people say that, the less I want to do it. That's not what it's all about. And I just would not feel right doing that. There's no need to do it. We do private events and corporate events and things like that, and I do charge those guys a good amount. So, again, I never thought that. I never could imagine that someone would want to have a corporate event at our pickleball club. I didn't even think there would be guests. At first, I thought it would just be members. I thought it would just be family and friends, and then, okay, we'll have some members. I thought members would just play with members, and people were like, no, we want to bring guests. And I said, okay, so we have like a self-regulating QR code. People will pay a guest fee when they bring a guest. I never thought that, that ends up being a decent amount every month. And I never thought that would happen, let alone now people want to come and have a private event or corporate event. So those things are all, that's all great. And that's the business of pickleball that we're fortunate to have. So the dues for our members is not an area that is something that interests me to raise. To have more courts would be great. Then we could have more people playing. That would be the best.
All right. So last question is not necessarily looking back, but looking forward. Where do you see? Let's just say 10 years, because obviously the growth of pickleball has exploded. I mean, I wrote that article about that your club kind of confirms that Austin's like the pickleball capital of the world. So where do you see pickleball going in the next 10 years? As the ambassador of pickleball.
So that's the question that's always hard for me. Jack Monroe, when he was asking me if UT could use our courts, he said, can I have lunch with you? I said, sure. And we sat down, and he said, he's very mature for 20 at the time. And he said, where do you see Urban Pickleball in 5 years, in 2 years? And I looked at him and I said, Jack, I haven't even thought about next month. I'm just doing this for fun. We're just having fun. So it's a similar question. I think pickleball continues to grow around the world. I see it with the pros that I'm friends with now. They're spending a lot of time in Asia, in Japan, in China, in Vietnam. And when they go in Malaysia, when they go to these countries, there are stadiums full of people. And they're playing exhibition matches, they're playing pro matches. The professional game in the U.S. is growing as well. These pros are making a decent amount of money playing pickleball. I think recreationally it will continue to grow. I don't see any slowdown in the growth of pickleball. But I know a lot of business people are looking to Asia, and I don't see how I can be involved in that here in Austin, except that there is now an Urban Pickleball Malaysia and Tokyo because they've seen our place. But besides that, other people, the paddle companies are growing. We host we're doing a photo shoot for Squares Shoes on Monday, and a lot of the pickleball brands will come and film at Urban because it's picturesque and it's identifiable as a cool, pickleball scene. So that will, I think, continue. All the brands are investing. Nike just signed Annalie Waters, who's the #1 female pro, to a big contract. So if Nike, so those things are all continuing to happen. So I think that it will grow for a while. Where we are in that universe, I have no idea. Just continue to be a spot where people, are welcome to come and do their things and have fun playing pickleball. But I think paddle is the sport that's coming online that I play a few times a week, and I'm involved in this paddle club I mentioned, and that's growing in Austin. There will be other sports that will come along. Tip tee's another one that is. Drew Brees is a big investor in that. I met Drew Brees playing pickleball a month ago. I came in with my Urban Pickleball, shirt on, and he sees me. He says, "Are you Jay?" And I said, "Yes." Drew Brees says, "Are you Jay?" And I said, "Yes." He's like, "I was told I need to meet you." I want to meet you. And so things like that happen. That blows me away. But he started. I said, I want to meet you because he started Tiptee, which is. It's played on a pickleball court. It's a small tennis racket with strings, but the shortened version. It has a foam ball, and you play doubles, and it has some strange rules to it. But we haven't gotten any of the equipment yet. But I would love to host an exhibition for it up at Urban because I think it would be a cool place to do it, and it would be good for Tiptee. So there would be other variants of pickleball that will come along, but pickleball is pretty entrenched. I mean, it's been around since 1965. There was a new program on, they called, I think, The Power of Pickleball. It's on Apple TV. I saw it on an airplane, and I'm watching it, and everyone has the same experience with pickleball. Hey, the people they've met, the community they have. I mean, it's not just me. I mean, I'm maybe the best example. I mean, I feel like I'm the best example because of all the world that it's opened for me personally, but that's true for so many people. In this show, you realize it, and I'm watching it, and I realize I know so many of the people that are being filmed because of Urban and because of pickleball. But everyone has the same. It's the community and the people they've met, and that's the theme that goes through this show, and that's really the power of pickleball. And I don't. That's not going to change. So.
All right, really good. I really appreciate your time, Jay. It's really cool to hear the story and the background and just to see. I mean, it's like your innocence. That's what I love about it. Is that you have this whole vibe about you stumbled into this. This was
100%.
You believed in it, but others necessarily didn't. And then now it's blown up into this thing. So it's really cool. Good point.
Yeah, and you know what? Every time I tell it, I relive it, and it feels the same. So 100%. I appreciate it.